Let's stop painting infidelity with strokes of drama and seduction. Cheating almost never storms in with grand gestures or explosive fights. It enters like a whisper, like smoke slipping through a barely open window. At first, it's invisible, almost innocent. But its effect is corrosive, eroding connection one silent day at a time. By the time the realization hits, the damage is deep, tangled in your routine, embedded in your sense of peace. Infidelity isn't just physical. Often, it begins in the gray area, in those unspoken moments where attention shifts, where affection becomes calculated, and where presence turns into performance. It's the soft smile that doesn't reach the eyes, the polite response that once was passionate, and the increasing number of "I'm tired's" that don't actually mean exhaustion. Subtle at first. You might blame yourself. You might think it's work stress, a rough patch, a mood swing. But deep down, in that still place where intuition speaks, something's off. This slow unraveling doesn't come with fireworks. It comes with silence, with withheld words, with affection given in crumbs. One day, you realize you've stopped laughing together. You've stopped dreaming together. You've stopped truly seeing each other. And yet, everything seems fine on the surface. The house is clean. The routines are intact. But there's no spark behind the smiles. No soul in the conversations. That's how infidelity often begins. Not with a kiss or a confession, but with emotional distance so quiet it feels like background noise. Some people imagine cheating as an act of passion, but often it's just neglect wrapped in distraction. A late reply here, a canceled plan there, more time on the phone, less time in your space. Conversations that once felt alive now feel like formalities. And you start to doubt yourself. You begin minimizing the signals, labeling them as phases, moods, stress. But there's a difference between temporary disconnection and deliberate detachment, and your gut knows the difference. The stoic truth is this: people don't always cheat to leave you. Sometimes they cheat to fill what they're no longer willing to ask you for. Validation, attention, excitement, they seek it elsewhere when they've already decided you can't give it. But the worst part isn't the act. It's the denial, the manipulation, the slow fade of honesty. And unless you call it what it is, you risk becoming a stranger in your own relationship, wondering what changed while convincing yourself nothing did. So let's be clear. Cheating isn't a moment. It's a series of choices. It's the slow erosion of transparency. It's the careful rationing of intimacy. It's the way someone can stand beside you every day while emotionally residing somewhere else. And when you stop ignoring that, when you start seeing things for what they are, not what you wish they were, that's when you reclaim your peace. Because the truth may hurt, but denial destroys. Let's call it what it is. Betrayal isn't always loud. Sometimes it whispers you into numbness. But once you hear it, once you recognize it, you don't unsee it. And a man rooted in clarity doesn't chase smoke. He finds the fire and decides whether it's still worth saving. Here's the truth most won't say. When a woman begins to cheat, emotionally or physically, she leaves traces. They're not always obvious. But if you're paying attention, they're there. Smudges on your routine, dents in your peace of mind, knots in your gut. Most men look the other way. They rationalize. They tell themselves it's work pressure, a bad week, hormones, or maybe even their own fault. But deep down, they know. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. You notice her phone never leaves her side, even in moments when it once did. Conversations that used to be filled with openness are now laced with ambiguity. She smiles less. She checks out more. The warmth that once greeted you at the door is now replaced with distracted glances and conversations that feel more like checklists than connections. If you ask, she'll say everything's fine, just tired, just busy. But love doesn't vanish under pressure. It evolves. And when affection starts fading without a reason, it's not burnout. It's emotional redirection. Sometimes, it's the smallest moments that hurt the most. The way she no longer asks how your day was, how she no longer laughs at your jokes. Not because they're less funny, but because her heart is elsewhere. The way she retreats to her phone at night, facing away from you in bed. Her body is there, but her energy is somewhere else. Most men feel this shift but bury it. They swallow the ache. They pretend it's just a phase. But the truth is, a woman who has started emotionally investing elsewhere can rarely fake presence for long. And if you've ever felt that silent ache, that tight chest whispering, "Something's off," then this is for you. Not to judge her, not to blame yourself, but to see clearly, because clarity is where healing begins. Sign 1. She's present, but disconnected. She hasn't left, and yet, she's not really there. She still says good morning, but it sounds automated. You ask how she's doing and get the same lifeless, "I'm fine." She still laughs at your jokes, but without warmth, without the spark. Her eye contact? Fleeting. Her smile? Polite. She's there physically, but her spirit is drifting. She blames work, stress, needing space. But you feel the difference, not because you're overreacting, but because you're perceptive. A stoic man doesn't need evidence. He observes the shift. Love starts to feel like performance, intimacy like obligation. And when someone's heart is invested elsewhere, the scraps you receive are just enough to keep you from asking hard questions. The conversations feel hollow, like she's answering questions in a job interview rather than sharing life with her partner. Even the silence between you has changed. It's no longer comfortable, but charged with something unspoken. She may still participate in the routines, but it's robotic. She's mentally elsewhere, reliving conversations with someone else, or escaping into a fantasy where she no longer has to pretend. You might catch her zoning out more, missing the details you share, reacting to your presence with indifference rather than familiarity. You feel like an outsider in your own relationship. And when you bring it up, she gaslights you, insisting nothing has changed, asking why you're so sensitive, turning the conversation back on you. But you know what's real. Disconnection doesn't lie. It settles into the spaces between you, cold and undeniable. She blames work, stress, needing space. But you feel the difference, not because you're overreacting, but because you're perceptive. A stoic man doesn't need evidence. He observes the shift. Love starts to feel like performance, intimacy like obligation. And when someone's heart is invested elsewhere, the scraps you receive are just enough to keep you from asking hard questions. Sign 2. She hides in plain sight. No drama, no yelling, just silence selectively applied. She used to share everything, from office gossip to her random dreams. Now, her world has compartments and you're not in all of them. She still talks, but only when it's safe. Only when the narrative suits the image she wants to maintain. Then there's the phone. Once forgotten on the table, now it's always close, always face down, notifications silenced. You didn't ask for her password, yet she's defensive. You didn't accuse her, yet she's acting like you did. Real love doesn't fear scrutiny. Transparency doesn't need to be protected. And when someone starts guarding details, it's not privacy, it's concealment. Sign 3, her body stays, but her intimacy fades. You still share a bed, but it doesn't feel like comfort. It feels like coexistence. Some nights she turns away. Other nights she initiates, but it feels exaggerated, off. It's not passion, it's proof. Or a cover-up. Either way, it leaves you cold. Because intimacy isn't about frequency, it's about authenticity. When a woman's affection shifts, it always shows. Maybe it disappears. Maybe it changes shape. But it never stays the same. Her touch doesn't reassure. Her kiss doesn't connect. And when you bring it up, she says you're imagining it. But you're not. You're paying attention. Sign 4. The arguments make no sense. You miss a call, suddenly you don't care. Leave a dish in the sink, now you never listen. You say something neutral. She questions your tone. Starts to feel like you're always wrong. Like you're constantly walking on eggshells. But this isn't about dishes or missed calls. It's displacement. She's wrestling with guilt, and you're the easiest outlet. If you become the villain, she doesn't have to confront her betrayal. This emotional manipulation shifts blame to you so her exit feels justified. But a grounded man doesn't fall for the illusion. He recognizes the tactic, deflection disguised as conflict. She's not seeking resolution, she's seeking distance. And when someone rewrites your character to validate their choices, the best response isn't to defend, it's to detach. Sign 5, you've been erased from her future. This is the quietest shift and the most devastating. No more shared dreams. No more we. She used to say, when we move. Now it's, I'm thinking of relocating. Her vision board used to have your name on it. Now you're nowhere to be found. She talks about growth, healing, and exploration, but you're not in those plans. She's already halfway out the door mentally and emotionally. By the time she speaks the words aloud, it's just confirmation. She's been rehearsing this goodbye. You'll notice the hugs are mechanical. Her eyes avoid yours. Your presence feels tolerated, not cherished. But the stoic man doesn't beg. He doesn't chase. He doesn't plead to stay where he's no longer valued. The truth, cheating doesn't start in the bedroom. It begins in silence, in unanswered questions, in affection that feels rationed, in the moments you convince yourself that this is just a phase. But a man rooted in self-respect doesn't ignore the erosion. He doesn't argue with absence. And he never pleads for a seat at a table where he's no longer being served. Because if she needed to betray you to find herself, she was never truly yours to begin with. If this cleared the fog you've been walking through, comment clarity. Because clarity isn't pain, it's peace. And around here, we don't chase ghosts. We honor truth. We sharpen minds. And we never run from what we know deep down. The signs were always there. We just stopped pretending they weren't. It's easy to get lost in denial when you've built a life around someone. But denial doesn't protect you. It postpones the inevitable. And when you finally see things for what they are, not what you hoped they would be, you reclaim more than peace, you reclaim power. You stop living on autopilot. You stop silencing your intuition. You stop accepting breadcrumbs in the name of love. Every man deserves to feel chosen, not tolerated, not tolerated. Not kept around for convenience or comfort, but chosen with presence, with passion, with clarity. If you feel like you're constantly auditioning for a role in someone else's story, it's time to write your own. A relationship built on fear of confrontation or loss isn't love, it's dependency. And when you start choosing you, you stop tolerating half-hearted commitment from anyone else. So if this hit home, if you're feeling that mix of ache and awakening, lean into it. That discomfort you feel, it's growth breaking through the surface. Let it, and then do what grounded men do. Rise without resentment, heal without revenge, and walk forward with eyes wide open. If this message brought you closer to your truth, like it, share it with a brother who needs to hear it. And don't forget to subscribe for more content that keeps your vision sharp and your spirit steady. You're not alone in this. Clarity is our compass. And truth is the road we walk together.